If you played Vermintide, you might know about this map, Blight Reaper, which is in complete darkness for half the map. So you couldn't see more than 10 feet in front of you without the use of a torch that one person had to carry, that they had to throw down on the floor if they wanted to actually engage and try to fight anything. So it presented its own kind of unique challenge in the darkness, and there were a few other levels that used this, but this kind of darkness is also making its way into Darktide. How fitting, I know. When you go to select a mission, you'll see these new things called a hazard, which will present some kind of modifier on the level to change things up. In the case of this one, as you can see, Endless Horde, enemies are more numerous. This seemed to be on the harder difficulties, but there was also one called, I think, Lights Out, and it said don't forget to bring a torch, although I didn't capture any footage of it on the mission screen. But what exactly did that do? Well, it would turn this level, which as you can see has plenty of illumination, you can see where you're going, into this level. Utter darkness and terror. So it wasn't just this level, it could do it to any of them that had this hazard applied. It would turn out the lights, and you would really need that flashlight to illuminate the area. And what's great as well is that you could actually see your allies' flashlights and where they were aiming them. As you can see here, it's not like a lot of games where they just put a light on the end of the weapon that turns on and off, and that's the only thing someone else can see of your flashlight turning on and off. You can actually see the beams of where they're aiming it, and it would add a lot of atmosphere, as you can see just flickering behind me. Adds a nice bit of atmosphere, I think, to this Lights Out hazard. But how was it through the whole level, and how was it to play? Well, you can see the start of this level, pretty damn dark. It's got those Blight Reaper vibes. A few lights around though, and some lights in the distance of the scenery. But while it doesn't present quite the same challenge that Blight Reaper did, because one person had to carry a torch the whole time, and was thus mostly disabled when it came to melee or ranged combat, they had to put the torch down. This presents a different kind of change and challenge to the game by forcing people to use certain weapons that they might not really want to use necessarily, but they do want to try and bring a flashlight. And everyone can potentially bring that source of light on the end of their ranged weapon. Of course, not on their melee weapon, although let's go shovel flashlight attachment. Some areas of the map, though, were a bit lighter. You can see with these window grate vent radiator things, whatever they're supposed to be, they do emit quite a bit of light. So this area isn't so dark, which was a little bit disappointing as I was expecting a full-on Blight Reaper experience for most of the level. It was still definitely darker than usual, but not as dark everywhere as one might have hoped. It was darker on the lower levels perhaps, but up on these higher bits around all these orangey vents, you could see just fine. Moving into the next part of the level, it would get pretty dark again, and you start to get the kind of more alien vibes in this area, which was pretty cool. And you can see the other light sources going on, obviously fire right there, but the Psycho with the blue flamey smoke that it can do when it pulls off its abilities will give you some light. The las gun, as you'll see right here, will illuminate the area in red when it fires. So all these things are adding to the atmosphere with the different light sources. And the flashlights in this area look great. As you can see, it's really dark in here, makes it extra spooky. You don't know what's around every corner. But honestly, while it did look fantastic and added a nice different character to the environment, it didn't feel greatly much more difficult, even not knowing what was coming around the corners a little bit less than normal. I'd like to see them maybe go a little bit more all in on this, taking away a lot more of the light sources. It seemed like the level went from kind of dark to light to dark to light to dark to light throughout the entire level. This is the next area, which as you can see is pretty much light again with those big window vent things. So it was very often just pretty much back to normal Darktide rather than Darktide, where I was kind of hoping it would pretty much stay like Blight Reaper the whole way through. Moving on to the next part of the level, you can see it's quite dark in this first bit, but then in the middle there's some light, and then on the other side it's dark again. But where this could really get uncomfortable is when you had to go into melee combat only, and then you didn't really have much light at all. You still do get a little bit of character light to roughly see what you're doing. It's like you've got a built-in torch. But it could be cool if maybe there was a need to bring an extra cosmetic on yourself, which did allow you to illuminate the area around you a few meters. So you'd really need to outfit yourself properly to do one of these missions and to be ready for the pitch black that the level could bring if there was more darkness in the level. Or perhaps it would just require more teamwork for someone to stay back with the torch, lighting up the area as much as possible, shooting stuff, while the other three allies are in melee. Perhaps that's more the strategy in this hazard. But I do wonder with this kind of lights out game mode, how much room there would be to kind of play more stealthily, potentially, maybe sneaking through the level all together in kind of SWAT team style, sticking together, staying close by, and just creeping through the level, shooting what gets in your way, but keeping moving. Of course, hordes will come occasionally, you'll have to deal with those, but that could be a fun, different way to play if you were able to kind of sneak past a lot of enemies because of the darkness of this hazard, in kind of a GTFO style. That could be pretty fun. Although I guess with that you'd also need silenced weapons and things, and well, maybe that's a little too much. But as far as hazards go, this and the Endless Hordes one seem to be the only ones that were in the beta, so I'm not sure what other ones there might be, but I look forward to seeing what they've come up with, whether there's anything different from Vermintide, where you had deeds which kind of did a similar thing to what hazards do. But there we go. This is the lights out hazard. I think it looks visually fantastic. It does add some difficulty to the game, but I'd like maybe a little bit more in that the entire level looks like this. Kind of pitch black everywhere. It's only flashlights and gunfire and things that really illuminate the area, giving that much more alien movie vibe, which is really the strength of this hazard, I think. But I'll leave you on some gameplay of it anyway. This run doesn't last too much longer because, well, let's say I wasn't aware of how strong the hammer's special attack was in a certain situation.
Medicaid station! Cease this friendly fire!
So many levers and switches. Should I pull one?
That's them bits! I think this veteran requires further